Okay, just another little one. Just putting the fuel pump on. We've already put the oil cooler on. Yeah, basically the oil cooler. There's a couple of different types of seals. You want the small, for early single port, you want the small black ones. So you tend to get, see if I can show you, you get the sort of red later ones, like that one. And you get these big red ones. And then you get black ones. It's the two smaller black ones that you use. Some of the late single port ones, or late 1200s, take these sort. The way you can tell is the holes in there are bigger. The holes in there are bigger and they're more recessed. This is the one that was on mine. You can see they've put that packer there so they could use the later seals, which ain't really a good idea. The one, the sort of 1200 style that takes the big red seals, when you look at that, that bracket is stepped down a little bit to allow it to sort of give you a bit of space, because the seal doesn't squash completely flat. You can put them on with these, but it won't work properly. So I've just put the original. This is what this had on before. So they'd obviously put that spacer there. So that's kind of glued on. Put that spacer there so it doesn't tighten down dead far. But then them studs are just sort of aren't bottomed out. You can get sort of conversion studs to put, conversion seals to put doghouse sort of later oil cooler on an early engine, but I don't, but unless you're running twin carbs and stuff, I won't bother. So I'll just tighten that up. That's just done. That's quite an easy job. Just going to put the fuel pump on. This is actually the fuel pump that, in fact, I don't know where this came from actually. But I'm pretty sure it's good, because I wouldn't have kept it otherwise. I think it was off the original engine. So you can see how the foot on that is sort of lower than the actual flange that bolts down. So there's two sorts of pump. There's sort of, alternator. They call it alternator and whatever, but basically it's the size of the push rod. So the sort with the foot sticking down like that, they have the 100mm push rod. The sort where that is, you know, it's quite a bit, it's good for about 5mm further in there, they have 108mm. So what I always do is, if I'm not sure, I always order the 100mm ones. And then you can always cut the push rod down to 100mm. Whereas if you're the opposite way around and you've got 100mm push rod, then you're stuffed. You can't fit it. So if you buy 100mm ones, you can fit them on anything. You're never not going to be able to fit it. Whereas if you buy the 108mm one, you know, it's horses for courses. So there's a pump that's going to go on. Ideally, really, any rebuild, you should put a brand new pump on. But this pump, these quality of pumps, these style ones seem pretty good. With a metal foot, I've had some recently where they just fall apart. They're not very good. So I know this was working okay, so I'm going to use this one. The only thing that can happen is if the diaphragm goes, it leaks fuel into your oil. But as long as you keep checking your oil and you're on top of your oil, if it does do that, you'd know, because your oil level will go up without you putting any in. So that's just something to be aware of. This Bakelite thing, so this basically goes not that way, does it? There you go. It's a bit late, it's a bit cold. And that goes in there like that. You have one gasket like that, and then that gasket that goes sort of on top. One thing you've got to watch with these is, you can see where I've been sanding it, they're not flat. They're quite shitty really. Sometimes they're quite distorted, so I always just sit them flat on a bench and run a file around them just to smooth them off. It just means that the gaskets, you're not asking the gasket to do too much. And I tend to put these on. I do use that high temp sealer, but on something like a fuel pump, I tend to use this blue Hylamar. So basically just you know, just a bit of dobbins around there. Some people say, oh, you don't need to put sealer on. Well, don't put sealer on then, but it will leak like a bastard. They always do. Even if you put sealer on, the quality of the gaskets you get nowadays are pretty shit, so you basically need to put sealer on everything. Even when I do the recons, I put sealer. I put a bit of blue Ilamar on. If it bothers you that it squeezes out, you can always wipe it off afterwards. It's not the end of the world. Never put the push rod in without this, because it will drop in. You can lose it. I've nearly done that before. So basically, I'll put a bit of sealer on the bottom of this now. I mean, people will argue, say, oh, if you put too much sealer, it'll get in the oil, and well, yeah, it probably can, but no point building an engine up and it just chucking oil out. And they do chuck out. If these haven't got sealer on and they're not tight, or the pedestal, normally I don't reuse these unless I know it's new, because they crack. You just got to watch them. They'll get little cracks in because people over tighten them. So that goes in like so. Push rod. That push rod should be nice and free in there. If it's not, you need to file this out. I have had a batch of these before. I've had a couple of problems with cars stopping, and then when they cool down, starting, and it's been this expanding. I don't quite know how, but it grabs the push rod up. And then when you come to it and try the fuel pump, you sort of take the pipes off, it's pumping. And then when you drive a bit, and it'll stop again. And it's a bugger to find. But yeah, the thing to do is if you get a problem where it drives a little while and it stops, like it's run out of fuel, and then you go back to it, or after a bit it starts, it's worth, when it stops, straight away, just taking the pump off and just checking this rod. Because I've had a couple where this has been stuck. It's sort of, this must expand or go funny. It's normally when they're original ones, and it holds a push rod up. So obviously the engine's still running, but the pump's not pumping, which is mad. But it's happened a couple of times, so that's just something to be watched out. If you get a strange problem with something, that's just something to watch out for. Let's have a bit more sealer on. I should get shares in this sealer, really. I was doing a little bit tonight. Just basically got all the old bits off the original air filter and stuff. 1500 proper droopy air filter off the old engine. Just got all those bits out ready. I've even got a coil with it. I've got to find the fan housing, because I kept the fan housing because it was a single port fan housing, and the engine I put in the car was a doghouse one. So yeah, it was. Now we should really put a bit of grease in there. Let's be proper. Let's be proper and do it right. Get a cloth. Let's just wipe this off. You should have a bit of grease in the bottom of here, really. It gets filled with oil anyway. It ain't like it's going to be dry, but you are meant to put a bit of grease in there to be right. Let's put a bit of sealer on there. I must get a better tripod. But, you know, times are hard, as everybody knows. So yeah, bit of grease in it, bit of sealer on it. Right, bang that on there like that. Now you will have to push it down. Takes some pushing down, but just wind the nuts down with your hand. Always put new nuts on, really. If you've got new nuts, if you haven't got new nuts, it's alright, but I tend to always put new nuts on. I've just got a big box of them over there, which it makes it look nice, and to be fair, if the nuts are a bit rusty and a bit seized up, it just helps it. You don't normally have problems with these studs, to be honest. You get the odd time where the stud will wind out. which is not a problem really, you can sort that out. It's just if the studs, it's just if the stud is cross-threaded or something like that, you just got to make sure the studs are right length. So it kind of find its own position. You want to sort of nip it down and do it fairly evenly. But yeah, they do crack, these do, so you just don't want to do it too tight. But I'll probably do everything a bit too tight, but it's more when you're putting an old second-hand one back on. Do you know what I mean? They tend to get a bit strained and they get a bit more brittle. I mean, I don't think anybody uses Bakelite on cars anymore. It's a bit old-fashioned. Always smells like fish when you sand it down. I don't quite know why. This is an alternator one, so it's angled away. So it's meant to clear the alternator pedestal and whatever. So you can put an alternator one on everything. It's just the dynamo ones are more upright and they can sometimes file on the alternator and stuff. But I find these are fine. I'll just get the 100mm ones from Heritage. Like I say, I don't think they're as good as they used to be. They don't last as long, definitely, but it's all you can get. So if you've got a nice looking, newish looking original one that you think worked okay, you can put it on, but just keep an eye on the oil level. That's all really. It's not like they just burst and chuck loads of fuel in the oil. They'll do it gradually. And normally you smell it around here. You can normally tell, you take it off and in those little dishes in the Bakelite thing, there's pools of fuel. And it basically runs down, dilutes your oil, and then knackers your engine. But to be honest, if you don't check your oil that much, that you don't notice your oil levels going up, you shouldn't really be driving one of these things. But saying that, if you've got a bit of an oily, leaky engine, you might not notice the oil going up. But what you will notice is when you take your dipstick out and turn it upside down, it's thin. It's really clear and thin, and it just does. It don't stink like fuel, but you know, it smells a bit funny. Right, let's talk to factory spec, as everybody says. If you want to be really gaily, I probably shouldn't say that. That's probably not politically correct, but you know, then you can just wipe the excess off. And nobody's none the wiser, but you know, it's kind of sealed up a bit better than just relying on them silly card gaskets, because I think those gaskets are actually just card gaskets. I mean, that's a O-ring set I've got, but you know, they call it genuine and they say this and that and it's all made in China. Not that there's anything wrong with stuff made in China, but don't say it's genuine German when it's made in China. It's not honest, is it? It's lying. Right, I'll take you off your stand. I'll just show you the other bits I've got. Off your little stand. So these are all the bits that I took off the original engine. So I've actually quite happily got rocker covers, rockers, pushrod tubes, pedestal, top tinware, push rods, deflector plates. I don't know why I got the deflector plate. Oh yeah, I think I robbed. This did have new barrels and pistons on and I robbed them for another job. You know what it's like? If it's still for more than 5 minutes, I can rob it. Got these proper bits of tinware underneath as well. And that proper tube bit. Where's the tube? Yeah, you won't see many of these tubey bits here. So they go on like the exhaust manifold. So they basically, I'll show you on this engine here, they basically go sort of around here somewhere and they duct warm air from underneath up into the air filter. So the air filter is, they call it a droopy air filter, so it's a double droopy. I'm not making any rude jokes, but that's what they call it because it's got 2 droopy bits on. And then they have the 2 small hoses which go to those bits I've just showed you. So it's kind of a different setup of air cleaner. I think only 1500s had that. So yeah, so that's about it for today. I'm only doing a bit at a time. I've had enough today. I've been doing an engine job that's gone wrong, that's got a crack in the case, which ain't good. But it's not mine, just for somebody else. But yeah, so it's coming together. I have got the barrels and pistons there. I haven't took them out yet. But what I'll probably do next is I need to find a bit of tinware for here, because I don't think I've got that. I've got the proper front pulley, because 1500 pulley is slightly different on a 67, because it's the alternator is the long alternator, 12 volt size, and 12 volt, which is weird. It's kind of a weird setup, but you've got to have the right pulley, otherwise it's out of line. So 1500 pulley slightly set back a bit further, I think. So I've got plenty of bits of tinware. Put the pulley on. Oil filler, I might just wash that and let that dry so it's ready for tomorrow. Then pistons on. Won't put the barrels on yet until I get the heads. So then I'm kind of running out of bits to do. I can wash all the bits off, but until I get the heads back, I'm hoping today or tomorrow or Wednesday, you should give me a bell and let me know about the heads, and how much it's costing. But you know, hopefully it'll be all right. I mean, if there's a problem with the bottom end, if it rattles or anything, or you know, I've not had the case checked, but it did run okay before. It did have a little bit of a cam follower noise, but the cam followers were pretty shagged, pretty worn out, pretty dished. Sometimes a cam follower noise is down to the bores inside the case where the cam follower's running, and you can sleeve them and do all that business. But if it's got a bit of a cam follower rattle, I know it's not the cam and I know it's not the followers, so I know it is the case, and they go on forever like that. They don't. It's just a bit annoying, but it'll get it back on the road. And I'm not going to the trouble of machining the case to put sleeves in for the cam followers and finding somebody to do it and do it right. I mean, my engineering guy could probably do it, but it's not going to be a cheap job. But hopefully it'll be okay. It'll be okay. If I do get it running and it doesn't work right, or there's a problem with the bottom end, or the case is out of line and it does something funny, at least I've got all the bits together to build up an engine. Because I must have at home, I must have 3 other single port bottom ends, and one of them will probably be okay to build up. I probably could have just built an engine up on one of them, but I wanted to try and save the original. If there is a problem with this one, what I'll probably do is just keep the case, and if I ever sell the car, just give the case to the people, because it is the original H code. So H is 1500, B is 16 single port, and F is 13 single port. But this will actually be a 16 single port. But the only difference really is the size of the pistons, barrels, just slightly bigger. The heads and single port, 16 single port and 15 single port heads are the same, no different. Well, I hope they're not, because that's what I've got. No, they aren't any different. You can build a 15 into a 16, so like you can on a 13. Well, you've got to change the heads on a 13, but they're a bit further away, aren't they, than a 16. Right, no more waffling. Time to go home. I'm fancy me dinner now. If you're enjoying the vid, subscribe. I will be doing some more bits on the Porsche later today. I might even take one. I have been tuning it up. I might even take one of the spark plugs out. And I've cleaned the spark plug up and ran it over the weekend. I'm going to have a look what that looks like tonight. I'm going to clean it up again and run it all week and then have a look, because this business is setting it up on the emissions machine. I don't think it's working particularly well, because I think what it's doing on idle it can be completely different to what it's doing higher up. So I might have to have it weaker at idle or richer at idle to make it run right. So I'm just going to go through the process of checking the plugs and stuff. But if you're enjoying it, subscribe, give me some likes, and I'll see you next time.